About a few years ago, I fell into the Catch a Predator rabbit hole. You know how the YouTube algorithm is. 1 second you're looking up how to avoid car scams, and somehow you end up on old NBC shows. The Catch a Predator originally aired under the name Dangerous Web back in 2004. During its heyday, it was a wildly popular show, spawning dozens of jokes and memes both on television and on the internet, despite its serious subject matter. Such a popular show would naturally have a fan base that would continue on long after it ceased airing. And within that fan base, there's even smaller sub-communities, including the one dedicated to the guy you're seeing me depicting right here. Lorne was originally featured on October 2007 in Bowling Green, the final episode of the show. Initially, he wasn't that memorable of a predator when the show aired, yet somehow he would morph into a kind of low-cow the TCAP community, though a fairly niche low-cow in the grand scheme of things. Of course, the subject of low-cows have always been controversial since they're kind of bullying, trolling communities. Though it's debatable whether some of them deserve it or not. I'll leave that to someone else to debate. His chat log was one of the longest, if not the longest, of all the predators on the show, and somehow it is both disgusting and hilarious at the same time. He's also the type that likes to send unsolicited nude pictures, regardless of whether you ask for them or not. Of course, this would come to bite him in the ass. For those who have seen the show, you already know the drill, but for those who haven't, I'll run through things real quick. The predators will meet up with what they think are underage teens on AOL and Instant Messenger chat rooms. That was what was used back then. But of course, they won't actually be underage teens that they meet up with at the Sting House. Instead, it'll be a young actor or actress who is hired by NBC, and they'll be the ones who usher them in. And from there, they'll meet up with Chris Hansen and then eventually the police. The same thing happened to Lorne, as he was ushered into the Sting House by the actress Casey, who invited him to sit in the literal, I guess you could say, hot seat. Once the cameras came out, Lorne said his now iconic phrase, "It's basically God, but I guess his accent or something." Anywho, Lorne will spend the next 5 years locked up, and you would presumably think he would have been forgotten about, but in the background, a community would begin to grow, one that would use weirdly Christological symbolism and language, at least at first. They've largely dropped it now. But for the most part, they would mostly rely on memes and jokes and videos analyzing him until eventually someone would make first contact. Since 2016, Lorne has been consistently catfished by various trolls. First, originally by a woman going by Ember, and she basically would pretend to be a friend, but was low-key trolling him, making it seem as if he had a growing fan base, when in reality, they were unironic trolls who would, of course, say pretty negative stuff about him. The calls would be recorded, and Lorne would eventually find out, and yeah, he was not too happy, and that was the end of their friendship, until somehow she was able to claw her way back in again. The second was a woman claimed to be Ramona. She was the first quote-unquote girlfriend catfish. They were more asexual, but Lorne always treated her as a girlfriend. And eventually she would admit, yeah, this is all just a game, I'm trolling you. And somehow he would still think that she must really been into him. Once that happened, the gloves were off. The dude proved that he could be continuously catfished. Even after admitting you were doing it, he still would cling on. Of course, like a second season of a television show or sequel to a movie, you gotta go bigger. And the way they would do this is by making Lorne believe that Casey, the actress/decoy, had actually been thinking about him all these years and had fallen in love with him. And of course he fell for it, so yeah. I mean, personally, if I was caught in that sting, Casey and Chris Hansen and the police would be the last people I'd want to see, but Lorne really is thinking with Mr. Penis, I guess. Of course, the whole Casey scenario would unravel, revealing even more catfishers, as they were claiming to have been working with the founder of Perverted Justice. I guess Lorne thinks he's some kind of sinister figure behind the scenes. I mean, if he knew what a lolcow was, and he'd know that it's nothing sinister, just, well, from their perspective, it is pretty sinister to be picked on and bullied. The recorded calls will be uploaded to YouTube, and in those calls, Lauren will reveal exactly the type of character you would expect from an attempted child predator. He has all the winning hallmarks that any lady would love: jealousy, clinginess, narcissism. Traits that would be extremely dangerous in real-world situations, but because Lauren has no power over any of these folks, it's pretty funny. I mean, they've made this guy jealous of other men, a woman, a dildo, even Donkey Kong. Well, / Animal Crossing. Lauren doesn't know the difference between the two, funny enough. Lauren's desperation, presumably due to the sting, means that he's exceptionally prone to this kind of trolling. What's even more remarkable is his ego makes him believe that these younger women, some of them voiced by guys, which voice changing software by the way, would actually be interested in him. The fact that a man humiliated on a popular television show would actually think this way is pretty remarkable. I mean, at one point, trolls got him to think that one of the catfishes, Jamie, who looks suspiciously like this Russian Instagram model, would actually be willing to be with him. It's nuts. It's insane. Nuts that a balding pedo would actually think this way. I suppose there's similar hallmarks to victims of romance scams. Usually the victims are in a desperate and vulnerable situation, like being recently widowed or divorced. The fantasy that a highly desirable person who wants you is too difficult for some of them to let go. But unlike typical victims of romance scams, nobody's really stealing from Lauren. They're just trolling him, posting his private calls online, mostly for hilarity. Because of that, it could be difficult to forget that he's a pretty messed up person who barely, if at all, has any remorse, and he rarely takes responsibility for his actions. He's been taking the same essay class for over 9 years. That all but proves that he hasn't learned a damn thing. Also, even though his temper tantrums and jealousy could be funny in a controlled environment, they are dangerous in real situations, and it's easy to forget that sometimes. Perhaps we could all enjoy laughing at this fool, but never forgetting that until he stops being such a damn narcissist, he'll always be dangerous.